During my vasectomy procedure, I overheard my surgeon talking to a nurse. Is his wife still in the waiting room? Yes, doctor. Good. After we finish, I need you to give her this envelope. Don't let him see it. My blood ran cold. I pretended to still be under anesthesia. 30 minutes later, I saw what was in the envelope. I packed and left the town. But before I begin, please like and subscribe to the channel. And we'd love to hear which part of the world are you joining us from. Let us know. Now, let's dive into today's story. Daniel Mercer had never been the kind of man who questioned his life too deeply. He fixed things. Boilers that wheezed in December. Roofs that leaked during Arkansas thunderstorms. Fluorescent lights that flickered in empty hallways. People called him reliable. Showed up on time. Did the work. Left everything better than he found it. That was enough. He worked maintenance for the county school system, a job that kept him moving through buildings that smelled like chalk dust and cafeteria steam tables. His hands were always rough, knuckles scarred from years of wrenches slipping and metal edges biting. He wore the same blue work shirts with his name stitched above the pocket. He drove a pickup truck that was older than his marriage. His wife, Paige, worked part-time at a dental office. She answered phones, scheduled appointments, smiled at nervous patients. The money wasn't much, but it covered groceries and kept the lights on. She handled the bills. He handled everything that broke. That division had always made sense. They lived in a small house near Clearwater Lake, the kind of place where neighbors waved from their porches and kids rode bikes until the streetlights came on. Tessa, their daughter, was 8 years old. She played soccer on Saturdays and brought home drawings from school that Paige taped to the refrigerator. Daniel would study those drawings, crooked houses, smiling suns, stick figures holding hands, and feel something settle in his chest. Family was Daniel's anchor. He grew up in foster homes. 3 different houses before he turned 12. Another 2 before he aged out at 18. He learned early that stability was a gift, not a guarantee. You didn't question it. You held on. So when Paige brought up the vasectomy, Daniel didn't fight her. It started on a Tuesday night in late March. They were sitting at the kitchen table after Tessa went to bed. The house was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and the occasional creak of old wood settling. Paige had her hands wrapped around a mug of tea that had gone cold. "I've been thinking," she said. Her voice was soft, careful. "About us. About our family." Daniel looked up from the water bill he'd been reviewing. "What about it?" "We're lucky," Paige said. She wasn't looking at him. Her eyes were fixed on the mug. "1 child. A good life. Everything's stable." Daniel waited. He knew there was more. "I don't want to risk it," she continued. "Another pregnancy. The complications. The cost. We're good where we are." "Okay," Daniel said. Paige finally looked at him. "I think you should get a vasectomy." The word hung in the air between them. Daniel set down the bill. "You've thought about this," he said. "Not a question." For a while, Paige reached across the table, her fingers brushing his wrist. "It makes sense. It's simple. 1 procedure. Then we don't have to worry anymore." Daniel studied her face. She looked tired. The lines around her eyes seemed deeper in the kitchen light. She'd been tired a lot lately. Working, taking care of Tessa, managing everything. "You sure?" he asked. "I'm sure." She squeezed his wrist. "We're complete. We don't need anything else." Daniel thought about foster homes. About being moved in the middle of the night with everything he owned in a plastic garbage bag. About the feeling of never belonging anywhere. He thought about Tessa's laugh. The way she ran to him when he got home from work. "All right," he said, "if that's what you want." Paige smiled. It didn't quite reach her eyes, but Daniel told himself that was just exhaustion. The appointment was scheduled for April 14th. The clinic was in Fayetteville, 40 minutes from their house. Paige drove. Daniel sat in the passenger seat and watched the landscape roll past. Pine trees giving way to strip malls, farmland punctuated by gas stations and fast food signs. "You nervous?" Paige asked. "No," Daniel lied. She glanced at him. "It's routine. Thousands of men do it." "I know." They didn't talk much after that. The radio played country music at low volume. Daniel focused on the white lines of the highway disappearing under the hood of their car. The clinic was in a medical building that looked like every other medical building. Beige walls, automatic doors, a waiting room with magazines nobody read. Daniel filled out forms while Paige sat beside him, her purse in her lap. Daniel Mercer? A nurse appeared in the doorway, clipboard in hand. He stood. Paige squeezed his hand once, briefly. I'll be right here. The procedure room was small and bright. Too bright. The overhead lights made everything sterile and flat. A surgical table covered in paper. Metal instruments on a tray. The smell of antiseptic sharp enough to taste. Go ahead and change, the nurse said, handing him a gown. Everything below the waist. Daniel did what he was told. He'd always been good at following instructions. The gown was thin and ridiculous, tied in the back where he couldn't quite reach. He sat on the table and waited. The surgeon came in 10 minutes later, a man in his 50s with gray hair, the kind of confidence that came from doing the same procedure 1,000 times. He smiled. Mr. Mercer, how are we feeling? Fine. Good. This won't take long. The surgeon washed his hands at the sink while the nurse arranged instruments. You'll feel some pressure, maybe a little pulling, but no pain. We'll have you out of here in 30 minutes. Daniel nodded. He focused on breathing. In through his nose, out through his mouth. The same technique he'd used during a warehouse fire years ago when smoke filled his lungs and he couldn't see the exit. Stay calm. Stay focused. Take everything in. The surgeon talked while he worked, explaining each step, keeping the tone light and professional. Daniel felt the pressure he'd been warned about. A strange tugging sensation that wasn't quite pain, but wasn't comfortable either. He stared at the ceiling, counted the tiles, thought about Tessa's soccer game on Saturday. He'd promised he'd be there. He never missed her games. Then he heard it. Is his wife still waiting? The surgeon's voice, not directed at Daniel, at the nurse. Yes, the nurse replied. Daniel didn't move. His body went still in a way that had nothing to do with the procedure. Good, the surgeon said. Give her the envelope after. Not him. The words were casual, matter of fact. The surgeon didn't whisper. He didn't need to. He was talking to his nurse the way people talk when they think the person on the table isn't really listening. Daniel kept his breathing steady. In through his nose, out through his mouth. What's in it? The nurse asked. Her voice had a note of curiosity. Test results. The surgeon was focused on his work, his hands steady. She already knows. This just makes it final. Final. Daniel felt something crack inside his chest. Not his ribs. Something deeper. Something that had been holding everything together. Almost done here, the surgeon said. To Daniel this time. The professional voice back in place. You're doing great. Daniel didn't respond. He stared at the ceiling tiles and counted. 38, 39, 40. The nurse cleaned him up, applied bandages, gave him instructions he didn't hear. Help him off the table. Your wife can drive you home, she said. Take it easy for a few days. No heavy lifting. Daniel nodded. He dressed slowly, his hands automatic. Button the jeans, lace the boots, pull the shirt over his head. His mind was somewhere else entirely. Paige was waiting in the lobby, her purse in her lap, her phone in her hand. She looked up when he appeared. All done. Yeah. His voice sounded normal. He was good at that. Sounding normal when everything was breaking. How do you feel? Fine. They walked to the car together. The nurse appeared behind them, moving quickly across the parking lot. Mrs. Mercer? Paige turned. The nurse handed her a manila envelope. From Dr. Patterson. He asked me to give this to you. Oh. Paige took it. Her fingers tightened on the edges. Thank you. The nurse smiled and walked back inside. Daniel got into the passenger seat. He watched Paige through the windshield as she stood by the driver's door, turning the envelope over in her hands. She didn't open it, just stared at it for a long moment before tucking it into her purse. When she got in the car, her face was composed. Calm. What was that? Daniel asked. Nothing. She started the engine. Just paperwork. She drove home. Daniel watched the landscape reverse itself. Strip malls becoming farmland. Pine trees crowding close to the highway. The white lines disappearing behind them. He didn't sleep that night. The pain from the procedure was manageable, dull and distant, easy to ignore. But his mind wouldn't stop. He lay in bed next to Paige, listening to her breathe in the darkness, and replayed every word he'd heard in that room. Give her the envelope after. Not him. She already knows. This just makes it final. At 2 a.m., Daniel got out of bed, moved quietly through the dark house. The kitchen light hummed when he flipped the switch, casting everything in yellow. Paige's purse was on the counter. It was always there. She had routines. She trusted them. Daniel stood in front of that purse for 3 full minutes. Then he opened it. The envelope was tucked between her wallet and a pack of tissues. Manila. Unsealed. Daniel pulled out the single sheet of paper inside. The letterhead was from a DNA testing lab in Little Rock. The format was clean, clinical, designed to remove all ambiguity. Alleged father, Daniel Mercer. Child, Tessa Mercer. Probability of paternity, 0%. Daniel read the words 3 times. Each time they meant the same thing. The date on the test was from 6 years earlier. 6 years. Tessa had been 2 years old. Daniel set the paper on the counter. He pulled out a chair. He sat down. The kitchen clock ticked. The refrigerator hummed. Outside, a dog barked once and fell silent. Daniel didn't move. He replayed memories. Tessa's birth. The way the nurses handed her to Paige first. The way Paige's face changed when she looked at the baby. Relief, Daniel had thought at the time. Just relief that everything went well. He thought about birthday parties. Tessa turning 3, 4, 5. Paige always managing the details. Always in control. He thought about homework nights. Bedtime stories. The way Tessa held his hand crossing the street. Her small fingers wrapped tight around his. He thought about every time Paige shut down questions. She looks like my side of the family. Let's not dwell on the past. What matters is right now. The truth hadn't been hidden well. He just hadn't wanted to see it. At 6:40 a.m., while Paige and Tessa still slept, Daniel packed a duffel bag. Work clothes, toiletries, his wallet and keys. He moved through the house like a ghost, touching nothing else. He left the DNA test on the kitchen counter. Then he walked out the door. Daniel drove north. He didn't have a plan. He just drove. The highway stretched out empty in the early morning light. Mist hung over the fields. The sun crept up behind him, painting the sky orange and pink. Beautiful. Indifferent. He ended up in Boone County, a town called Harrison, small enough that nobody asked questions. He found a room above a bait shop on the edge of town. $20 a night, cash only, a bathroom down the hall. The owner barely looked at him, just handed over a key attached to a wooden fish. Daniel called in sick to work. Said he had the flu. We'll be out for a week, maybe 2. His supervisor didn't argue. Daniel had 14 years of perfect attendance. He'd earned the benefit of doubt. He didn't drink. He didn't rage. He didn't break things. He thought. The room had one window that looked out over a gravel parking lot. A twin bed with a mattress that sagged in the middle. A card table and a folding chair. The walls were thin enough to hear trucks passing on the highway. Daniel sat at that card table for hours. Days. He replayed his entire marriage like a movie he'd seen before, but never understood. The first time he met Paige. She was working at a grocery store. 22 years old. Pretty in a quiet way. She smiled when he asked where to find the bread. Their second date. She told him about her family. Complicated relationships. A father who left. A mother who blamed her for everything. Paige said she wanted stability. Wanted something different. Daniel had understood that. He'd wanted it too. They dated for 8 months. Got married at City Hall. No big ceremony. Just them and 2 witnesses pulled from the courthouse hallway. Paige got pregnant 3 months later. Daniel remembered being happy about it. Nervous, but happy. He never had a family. Now he would. Tessa was born in November. 7 pounds, 6 ounces. Dark hair. Blue eyes that would turn brown by her first birthday. Paige had been strange after the birth. Distant. The doctors said it was postpartum depression. They prescribed medication. Things got better. But now Daniel replayed it differently. The way Paige wouldn't let him hold Tessa for the first few days. The way she watched him when he finally did. The way she relaxed only after he smiled and said, "She's perfect." He remembered conversations he'd try to have. About Tessa's early development. About why she didn't look like either of them. About why Paige never wanted to discuss the pregnancy. Every time, Paige redirected. Changed the subject. Made Daniel feel like he was the problem for asking. He'd Let her. Because questioning meant risking everything. And Daniel had never been good at risk. He thought about the surgeon's words. She already knows. This just makes it final. Final. That meant Paige had orchestrated the whole thing. The vasectomy wasn't about preventing future children. It was about preventing future questions. About making sure Daniel never had biological children he could compare to Tessa. About closing a door she needed locked forever. That realization was worse than the betrayal itself. On the third day, his phone rang. He let go to voicemail. Then listened. Paige's voice was tight, controlled. Daniel, I know you found it. We need to talk. Please, call me back. He deleted the message. She called again that afternoon. This time he answered. You're scaring Tessa, Paige said. No greeting, no apology. She doesn't understand why you left. I'm not discussing this over the phone, Daniel said. Then come home. No. Silence. Then, what do you want? To talk. Face to face. Not at the house. Where? Fayetteville. The Kroger parking lot on College Avenue. Tomorrow at noon. Daniel. He hung up. The next day, he drove south. The weather had turned gray, clouds hanging low and heavy. Daniel arrived early and parked at the far end of the lot, away from the entrance. He watched cars come and go. People pushing carts full of groceries. Living normal lives. Paige's car pulled in at 11:58. She found him quickly, parked 2 spaces away. Got out. She was wearing jeans and a sweater. Her hair pulled back. No makeup. She looked small. Daniel stayed in his truck. Rolled down the window. Paige walked over slowly. Stopped a few feet away. Can we talk inside? Get coffee. Here's fine. Daniel. I heard the doctor, he said. His voice was calm. Steady. In the operating room. He told the nurse to give you the envelope. Said you already knew. Said it would make things final. Paige's face went pale. She opened her mouth. Closed it. I found a test, Daniel continued. The one from 6 years ago. The one you kept hidden. She looked at the ground. Her shoulders dropped. I'm sorry. For lying? Or for getting caught? For all of it. Her voice cracked. It was complicated. I was young. I was scared. Scared of what? That you'd leave. She finally looked at him. Her eyes were red. That I'd lose everything. So you decided for me, Daniel said. You decided I didn't deserve to know. That I'd just be the backup plan. The safe choice who'd stick around and raise someone else's child. She needed a father, Paige said. Desperate now. She deserved stability. Love. You gave her that. And I needed the truth. Paige reached toward him. Daniel didn't move. She let her hand fall. I loved you, she said. I still love you. That was real. Was it? Daniel asked. Or did you love what I represented? Security. Someone who wouldn't ask too many questions. Someone who grew up without a family and would do anything to keep one. Paige flinched like he'd struck her. Who's the father? Daniel asked. It doesn't matter. It matters to me. Someone I knew before you. Paige wrapped her arms around herself. It was brief. Stupid. He didn't want anything to do with a child. And I was convenient. No. You were kind. You were good. You were everything I wanted in a partner. Except honest. Paige started crying. Real tears. Streaming down her face. I was going to tell you. Eventually. When Tessa was older. When it wouldn't destroy everything. Daniel watched her cry. He felt nothing. That was the strangest part. He'd expected anger. Rage. Instead, there was just a vast, empty space where something used to be. Please, Paige said. We can fix this. We can go to therapy. Work through it. For Tessa. No. Daniel. I'm filing for divorce. He said it simply. Factually. I've already spoken to a lawyer. You'll get papers next week. Paige's face crumpled. You can't. We're a family. We were never a family. Daniel started his truck. We were a lie you told yourself. And I was stupid enough to believe it. What about Tessa? Paige's voice rose. You're just going to abandon her? I'm not her father. You've been her father for 8 years. Daniel looked at her fully then. And you took that from me. You took the choice. The knowledge. The truth. You took everything that mattered and replaced it with a fiction. So don't talk to me about being a father. You made sure I'd never really be one. He put the truck in reverse. Paige grabbed the door. Please, she whispered. Don't do this. Let go of the truck, Paige. She held on for another moment. Then released. Step back. Daniel drove away. He watched her in the rearview mirror, standing alone in that parking lot, getting smaller and smaller until she disappeared. He didn't go back to Boone County. He drove west instead, found a motel outside Berryville, paid for a week. The lawyer's name was James Reynolds. He had an office above a hardware store, framed diplomas on wood-paneled walls, a desk covered in case files. Divorce is straightforward in Arkansas, Reynolds said, especially without major assets or contested custody. I'm not contesting anything, Daniel said. She can have the house, the car, everything. Reynolds raised an eyebrow. You sure about that? Yes. What about the child? She's not mine. Legally, she is. You're on the birth certificate. You've acted as father for 8 years. Any judge will see you as the father regardless of biology. Daniel leaned back in his chair, looked out the window at the street below. An old woman walking a dog, a teenager on a skateboard. I don't want custody, Daniel said. I don't want visitation. I want a clean break. That might be difficult. Child support. I'll pay it. Daniel cut him off. Whatever the court decides, I'll pay every month. I just want out. Reynolds studied him for a long moment. This is about more than adultery, isn't it? She lied about paternity for 8 years. She manipulated me into a vasectomy to cover it up. She built an entire life on deception. Daniel's voice stayed level. So yes, it's about more than adultery. Reynolds made notes. All right, I'll draw up the papers. This will take a few weeks, maybe a month. That's fine. Your wife will likely fight this. I know, but Paige didn't fight. Not in court anyway. She called, left voicemails, sent texts, each one more desperate than the last. We can work through this. Think about what you're doing to Tessa. I made a mistake. Don't throw away everything. Please, just talk to me. Daniel didn't respond. He blocked her number, changed his own. She showed up at his motel once. He saw her car from the window, watched her knock on the door, stand there for 10 minutes, finally leave. He felt nothing. That hardness that started in the grocery store parking lot had spread, filled every hollow space inside him. It wasn't anger. It was clarity, the kind that comes when you finally stop lying to yourself. Paige tried one more approach. She had her mother called Daniel's mother, the woman who'd fostered him from age 14 to 18, the only foster parent who'd ever given him Christmas presents. Paige called me, Martha said when Daniel answered. She's worried about you. Says you won't talk to her. I won't. She made a mistake, Daniel. A terrible mistake. But she loves you. No, she doesn't. She's begging for a chance to make it right. Martha. Daniel kept his voice gentle. She didn't deserve his anger. I appreciate you calling. I really do. But this isn't something that can be fixed. Nothing's unfixable if two people want it. That's the problem. I don't want it. Martha was quiet. Then, I've known you since you were 14. You were always so careful, so afraid to lose what you had. This doesn't sound like you. Maybe I've been the wrong version of myself for too long. Or maybe you're running from something that scares you. I'm walking away from something that broke me. Daniel looked out his motel window at the empty parking lot. There's a difference. Martha sighed. If you ever need to talk, I'm here. I know. Thank you. She hung up. Daniel deleted her number too. The divorce papers came through in May. Signed. Finalized. Daniel Mercer and Paige Mercer were no longer married. He closed their joint bank accounts, divided the money evenly, gave Paige her half via wire transfer. He signed over the house, the car, let her keep everything. He took his truck, his tools, his clothes. That was enough. But during the final paperwork, Reynolds called him into the office. Something came up, the lawyer said. He had a file open on his desk. Your ex-wife's attorney submitted some additional documentation. I think you need to see this. He slid a paper across the desk. Another DNA test. Different lab. Different date. This one was from 7 years earlier, before Daniel and Paige got married. Alleged father, Kevin Hardwick. Child, Tessa Mercer. Probability of paternity, 0%. Daniel stared at the paper. Read it twice. Who's Kevin Hardwick? He asked. According to your ex-wife's deposition, he's the man she believed was the biological father. Reynolds leaned back in his chair. She had him tested when Tessa was 1 year old. He wasn't the father. She never told me. No, and she apparently never told him either. He didn't find out until recently. Daniel felt that strange emptiness expand. So she didn't know. Correct. Your ex-wife was involved with multiple partners before you met. She suspected Kevin Hardwick was the father. When he tested negative, she didn't pursue it further. She chose you instead. Because I was safe. That's my interpretation, yes. Reynolds closed the file. I'm sorry. I know this makes it worse. Daniel stood, walked to the window, watched cars pass on the street below. She selected me, he said quietly. Not because she loved me. Not even because Tessa needed a father. She selected me because I was the only one who wouldn't ask questions. Who'd just accept it. Who'd be grateful enough for a family that I'd never looked too closely. Reynolds didn't respond. There was nothing to say. Daniel turned back. Can I keep this? It's your copy. Daniel folded the paper. Put in his pocket. We're done then. Yes. The divorce is final. Child support will be deducted from your paycheck automatically. If anything changes, contact me. They shook hands. Daniel left. He drove back to his motel. Packed his things. Checked out. He had no reason to stay in Berryville. No reason to stay anywhere near Clearwater Lake. Near Paige. Near the life he'd thought was his. But there was one thing left. He drove to the lake on a Saturday morning. The weather was warm. Families were out. Kids running around. Parents setting up picnic blankets. He found Tessa sitting at a picnic table near the water. Paige must have agreed to this. Must have known Daniel would reach out eventually. Tessa looked up when he approached. She was 8 years old. She had brown hair that needed brushing and a grass stain on her knee. She looked uncertain, afraid. Daniel sat across from her. Hi, he said. Hi. Her voice was small. They sat in silence. Daniel watched a family at the water's edge. A father teaching his son to skip stones. The stones bounced twice, 3 times, then sank. Mom said you moved away, Tessa said finally. I did. Because of me? Daniel looked at her. Really looked at her. She had blue-green eyes. A small nose. A chin that dimpled when she frowned. She looked like Paige. She didn't look like him at all. He'd never let himself see that before. No, he said. Not because of you. Then why? How do you explain adult failure to a child? How do you say, your mother lied to me about who you are, and I can't forgive that. I can't live in a house built on deception. I can't pretend anymore. You don't. Because children don't need that weight. Because your mom and I couldn't be married anymore, Daniel said. Sometimes adults can't stay together. It's not anyone's fault. Tessa picked at the wood of the picnic table. Do you still love me? The question hit harder than anything else. Harder than the DNA test. Harder than the betrayal. Because it was honest. Pure. A child asking the one thing that mattered to her. Daniel felt something crack. Not the hardness. Something beneath it. Yes, he said. I meant it. I love you. That part is real. Then why can't you stay? Because love isn't always enough. He reached across the table. Touch her hand briefly. I wish it was. But it's not. Can I visit you? I don't think so. Why not? Because I need to live a different life now. And you need to be with your mom. Tessa's eyes filled with tears. I don't understand. I know. You don't have to. Daniel stood. But I need you to know something. You didn't do anything wrong. None of this is your fault. You're a good kid. You deserve good things. She nodded. Tears slipped down her cheeks. Daniel wanted to hug her. Wanted to tell her everything would be okay. Wanted to promise he'd visit on birthdays and holidays and soccer games. But those were lies. And he was done with lies. Goodbye, Tessa. She didn't say anything. Just sat there crying while Daniel walked away. He got in his truck. Drove out of the parking lot. He didn't look back. 2 years passed. Daniel moved to a town outside Harrison called Lead Hill. Population 800. Small enough that nobody knew him. Nobody asked about his past. He rented a farmhouse on 20 acres. The place needed work. Roof leaked, porch sagged, while pump rattled. But the solitude was worth it. He fixed things as he went. Became his own project. He found work with small towns that needed someone dependable. School maintenance. Municipal repairs. Churches with broken furnaces. He drove his pickup from job to job. Kept his head down. Did good work. People respected him. Invited him to church potlucks. Asked him to join softball leagues. He always declined politely. He wasn't rude. Just unavailable. He had a routine. Up at 5:30 a.m. coffee on the porch while the sun came up. Work from 7 to 4 o'clock. Home. Dinner alone. Books until 9 o'clock. Sleep. He didn't date. Didn't look for companionship. Didn't try to rebuild what he'd lost. He lived small. Quietly. Honestly. The child support came out of his paycheck automatically. $847 a month. He never missed a payment. Never questioned it. It was his responsibility. He'd signed a birth certificate. He'd acted as Tessa's father for 8 years. The law saw him as her father regardless of biology. He paid what he owed. On Tessa's 10th birthday, 2 years after he'd walked away, Daniel sent a card. Simple. Generic. Happy birthday. Wishing you well. He signed it Daniel. Not Dad. Not love. Just his name. He bought a money order for $50. Tucked it inside. Mailed it to the house in Clearwater Lake. The envelope came back 2 weeks later. Returned to sender. Refused. He tried again for her 11th birthday. Same result. That was when he stopped. Paige had made her choice. She was cutting him out completely. Erasing him from Tessa's life. Maybe that was better. Cleaner. Maybe Tessa would forget him eventually. Remember him as someone who left when she was young. Just another person who didn't stay. Daniel told himself that was fine. That it didn't matter. Some nights it even felt true. He built a workshop in one of the farm's outbuildings. Started taking on carpentry projects. Bookshelves. Tables. Cabinets. Things that required precision and patience. He lost hours in the rhythm of it. Measure. Cut. Sand. Assemble. Repeat. Martha called once. Just once. 6 months after the divorce. How are you? She asked. I'm good. You sound different. Different how? Quieter. Harder. Daniel didn't disagree. Maybe that's who I always was. No. Martha's voice was firm. You were soft. Hopeful. You wanted to believe in people. That got me nowhere. It got you a family. For a while. A false one. Martha was silent for a long time. Then, I still think you're running, Daniel. I think you're punishing yourself for being betrayed. I'm accepting reality, Daniel said. There's a difference. Is there? He didn't answer. If you ever need me, Martha said, I'm here. That won't change. I appreciate that. She hung up. Daniel didn't call back. Time moved strangely in Lead Hill. Days blended together. Seasons changed. He watched the land around him shift from green to gold to white to green again. He fixed roofs, repaired engines, built furniture. He stopped thinking about Paige. Stopped wondering what she told Tessa. Stopped imagining Tessa's life without him. He let it go. That was harder than leaving. Letting go meant accepting that 8 years of his life had been based on a fiction. That the love he'd felt, real and deep and binding, had been built on sand. That he'd given everything to people who saw him as a tool, a means to an end. But he accepted it, because the alternative was bitterness, rage, self-pity. Daniel had seen men consumed by those things. Men in foster homes who drank themselves to death. Men who blamed the world for their failures. Men who stayed angry until anger was all they were. He refused that path. He chose silence instead. Distance. The slow, deliberate work of rebuilding himself into someone who didn't need anyone else. One evening in late September, 2 years and 5 months after he'd walked away, Daniel sat on his porch with coffee and watched the sun set. The sky burned orange and purple. The air smelled like cut grass and wood smoke. His phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer. Hello, Mr. Mercer? A woman's voice. Professional. Unfamiliar. Yes, this is Jennifer Collins. I'm a social worker with the Department of Human Services in Clearwater Lake. I'm calling about Tessa. Daniel's chest tightened. What about her? She's been asking about you. Consistently. For over a year. She wants to know where you are. If you're safe. If she can see you. Daniel closed his eyes. What does her mother say? Mrs. Mercer has been resistant. But Tessa is 11 now. Old enough to express her own wishes. We're obligated to consider them. I'm not her father. Legally, you are. The divorce didn't terminate your parental rights. And more importantly, Tessa considers you her father regardless of biology. Her mother doesn't want me in her life. That's between you and Mrs. Mercer. But Tessa deserves to know you're okay. She deserves to hear from you. Daniel was silent. He watched the sun disappear below the horizon. Darkness spreading across the land. I appreciate the call, he said finally, but I don't think contact is a good idea. It'll just confuse her, make things harder. Harder than believing her father abandoned her without explanation. The words landed like a punch. I didn't abandon her, Daniel said. Quiet. Firm. I left a situation that was destroying me. And she's 11. She doesn't understand the difference. Then her mother should explain it. Her mother won't. All she says is that you left. That you don't want to see Tessa anymore. That Tessa needs to move on. Daniel felt something shift. A crack in the hardness. Small. Almost imperceptible. What do you want from me? He asked. A letter. A phone call. Something that tells Tessa you're alive. That you care. That you didn't just disappear because she wasn't worth staying for. Daniel set down his coffee. Rub his eyes. I don't know. Think about it. Please. For her sake. She gave him her contact information. Hung up. Daniel sat on that porch until the stars came out. Until the cold drove him inside. He lay in bed and stared at the ceiling and thought about an 8-year-old girl at a picnic table asking, "Do you still love me?" He told her yes. Meant it. Maybe that hadn't changed. 2 weeks later, Daniel sent a letter. Short. Careful. He addressed it to Jennifer Collins and asked her to give it to Tessa. Tessa, I heard you've been asking about me. I want you to know I'm okay. I live in a different town now. I work. I'm safe. I left because your mom and I couldn't be married anymore. That wasn't your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. I want you to remember that. I think about you sometimes. I hope you're doing well in school. I hope you're still playing soccer. I hope you're happy. Take care of yourself. Daniel. He mailed it. And try not to think about whether she'd receive it, whether it would help or hurt, whether he'd done the right thing. He didn't hear back. He didn't expect to. 3 months later, December, cold and gray, he got another call. Mr. Mercer? This is Jennifer Collins again. Yes. Tessa got your letter. She read it every day for a week. She wanted me to tell you thank you. Daniel felt something tighten in his throat. Okay. She also wants to know if she can write you back. I don't think that's a good idea. Why not? Because it'll just prolong something that needs to end. Or it'll give a child closure. There's no closure in a situation like this. Jennifer sighed. She's asking Mr. Mercer. Not her mother. Her. An 11-year-old girl who wants to talk to the man who raised her for 8 years. Daniel looked out his window. Snow falling. Covering everything. Making the world quiet. One letter, he said. She can send one letter. I'll read it. But after that, no more. It's not healthy for either of us. I'll tell her. Thank you. The letter arrived a week before Christmas. It was written in pencil on lined notebook paper. The handwriting was careful, neat, the kind of handwriting a child uses when they want adults to take them seriously. Dear Daniel, thank you for your letter. I was happy to hear from you. I was worried you were hurt or sick or something. Mom wouldn't tell me where you went. I'm doing okay. I'm in 6th grade now. I still play soccer. We came in 2nd place this season. I played midfield. I know you and Mom aren't married anymore. I know that's why you left. But I miss you. I miss when you fixed my bike and helped with math homework. I miss Saturday mornings when we got donuts. Mom says I need to stop asking about you. She says you're not coming back, and I need to accept that. I'm trying, but it's hard. I don't understand why you can't visit sometimes. Or call. I don't understand why loving me isn't enough. But I know you said it's complicated. Adults always say that. I hope you're happy where you are. I hope you have a good Christmas. Love, Tessa. Daniel read the letter 3 times, then folded it carefully and put it in a drawer. He didn't write back, not because he didn't want to, but because anything he said would either be a lie or too much truth. He couldn't tell her I love you, but I can't forgive your mother. He couldn't tell her every time I see you, I'm reminded of 8 years of deception. He couldn't tell her you deserve better than a man who can't separate you from the lie you represent. Those were adult problems, adult failures. So he stayed silent. On Tessa's 12th birthday, Daniel didn't send a card, didn't send money, didn't reach out. He told himself it was mercy. That clean breaks healed faster than prolonged contact. Some days he believed it. He kept working, kept building furniture, kept living small and alone and honest. He dated once. A woman named Lisa who worked at the hardware store in Harrison. She was kind, funny, uncomplicated. They went to dinner 3 times, talked about music and books and places they'd never been. She asked about his past. He gave her the sanitized version. Divorced. No kids. Starting over. She kissed him on the third date. He kissed back. It felt empty. "You're not ready," she said when she pulled away. "Maybe not. Let me know if that changes." It didn't. Time kept moving. Lettel stayed small. Daniel stayed alone. For years after Daniel left Clearwater Lake, he got a call from a number he almost didn't recognize. Martha, his foster mother, the woman who'd raised him from 14 to 18. "Daniel?" Her voice sounded older. Tired. "Martha, is everything okay?" "I'm fine, but I need to tell you something." She paused. Paige passed away. The words didn't land at first. Daniel stood in his kitchen, phone pressed to his ear, and waited for them to make sense. "When?" he asked. 3 days ago. Car accident. She was driving home from work. A truck ran a red light. "Tessa." "She's okay. She wasn't in the car. She's with Paige's mother right now." Daniel sat down, stared at the table. "Why are you telling me?" "Because you're listed as Tessa's legal father. The state is involved. They're trying to figure out custody. I'm not her father. The law says you are. Your name is on the birth certificate. You paid child support for 4 years. Martha's voice softened. "Daniel, they're going to contact you. Probably soon. You need to decide what you want to do." "What I want to do?" "Whether you'll take her. Whether you'll fight it. Whether you'll let someone else raise her." Daniel closed his eyes. Saw Tessa at 8 years old, crying at a picnic table. Saw her letter written in careful pencil. "I don't understand why loving me isn't enough." "I don't know," he said. "You have time, but not much." "Does she know you're calling me?" "No. I called because I thought you deserved to know. What you do with that information is up to you." They hung up. Daniel sat at his kitchen table for an hour. Then 2. He thought about Paige. Despite everything, he didn't feel satisfaction, didn't feel vindication, just a strange, distant sadness. She'd been cruel, manipulative, but she'd also been afraid, flawed, human, and now she was gone. He thought about Tessa, 12 years old, motherless, about to be put into foster care unless someone stepped up. He knew what that was like. The uncertainty, the feeling of being unwanted, the way people looked through you instead of at you. He wouldn't wish that on anyone. The social worker called 2 days later. Not Jennifer Collins. Someone new. A man named Robert Chun. "Mr. Mercer, I'm calling about Tessa. I understand you were married to her mother." "I was. And you're listed as her father on the birth certificate." "Yes. We need to discuss custody arrangements. Paige's mother is elderly and unable to take Tessa full-time. There are no other relatives willing or able. That leaves you. I haven't seen Tessa in 4 years. I'm aware. But legally, you're her father. Unless you terminate your parental rights, the state will expect you to assume custody." Daniel walked to his window, looked out at the land he'd come to know, the quiet he'd built. "What if I say no?" he asked. "Then Tessa enters foster care. She's 12. That's a difficult age for placement. She'll likely move through several homes before she ages out at 18. Daniel felt something inside him. Not the hardness, something older, begin to shift. "I need time to think." "You have 48 hours. After that, the state will make a decision." The line went dead. Daniel stood at that window for a long time. The sun set. The stars came out. The world turned quiet and cold. He thought about the man he'd been 4 years ago, desperate to hold on to something that was never real, willing to overlook warning signs because he was afraid of being alone. He thought about the man he was now, hardened, self-sufficient, free from lies. And he thought about Tessa, a child who'd done nothing wrong except be born into a complicated situation, a child who'd loved him, who'd asked for so little. "Do you still love me?" Yes. The answer had always been yes. But love wasn't enough. He'd told her that at the lake. Except maybe it was. Not for fixing broken marriages. Not for rebuilding trust with people who didn't deserve it. But for giving a child stability. Safety. The thing Daniel had always wanted and never received. He picked up his phone. Dialed. "Robert Chun. This is Daniel Mercer. I made my decision." And Daniel took a breath. "I'll take her." Silence on the other end. Then, "You're sure?" "No. But I'm doing it anyway." "Good. I'll start the paperwork. You'll need to meet with me in person. Provide documentation. Pass a home inspection." "When?" "As soon as possible." Tessa's in temporary housing. The sooner we move her, the better. They made arrangements. Daniel hung up. He sat in his dark kitchen and wondered if he'd just made the biggest mistake of his life, or the only right choice he'd made in years. 3 weeks later, Tessa moved in. She arrived with a social worker he didn't recognize. 2 suitcases, a backpack. She stood in his driveway and stared at the farmhouse like it was a foreign country. She looked different, older, taller. Her hair was longer. She wore clothes that didn't quite fit, but her eyes were the same, uncertain, afraid. Daniel walked out to meet her. "Hi, Tessa." "Hi." Her voice was small. The social worker, a woman in her 50s with a clipboard, spoke. "Mr. Mercer, these are Tessa's belongings. I'll need you to sign these forms. Tessa, this is where you'll be living now. With Daniel." Tessa nodded. The woman handed Daniel a folder of paperwork. Explained rules. Check-ins, school enrollment, therapy appointments. Daniel signed everything, listened to everything, nodded at the right moments. Then the woman left. Daniel and Tessa stood in the driveway. Alone. "You want to see your room?" Daniel asked. "Okay." He picked up her suitcases. Let her inside. The house was clean. Simple. He prepared a room for her. Painted the walls, bought a bed, added a desk and lamp. Tessa looked around. "It's nice. You can change it if you want. Paint. Posters. Whatever." "Okay." She sat on the bed. Daniel set her suitcases down. "I know this is weird," he said. "I know you probably don't want to be here, but we'll figure it out." Tessa looked at him. "Why did you take me?" "Because you deserved better than foster care. You left me 4 years ago." "I know. You didn't write back. You didn't call. You just disappeared." Daniel nodded. "You're right. I did. So why now?" "How do you explain that sometimes people need to break completely before they can rebuild? That distance can clarify what matters? That you can love someone and still need to leave, but that doesn't erase the love?" "You don't. Because that's too complicated. Too adult." "Because I didn't want you to end up alone," Daniel said. "I didn't want you to grow up the way I did. Moving from house to house. Never belonging anywhere." Tessa studied him. "Do I belong here?" "I don't know yet, but we could try to find out." She nodded slowly. "Okay." That was the beginning. It wasn't easy. Tessa was angry, grieving, confused. She tested boundaries. Pushed back. Asked questions Daniel couldn't answer. "Why did you leave? Why didn't Mom tell me about you? Did you ever really love me?" Daniel answered what he could. Told her the truth when it was appropriate. Stayed quiet when it wasn't. He enrolled her in school. Made sure she had clothes that fit. Cooked meals she actually liked. Drove her to therapy appointments and waited in parking lots. He didn't try to be her father. Not at first. He was just the adult in the house. The one who kept things stable. Slowly, over months, something shifted. Tessa started talking more. Laughing occasionally. She made friends at school. Joined the soccer team. Daniel went to her games. Stood on the sidelines with other parents. Cheered when she scored. It felt strange. Surreal. Like living someone else's life. But it also felt right. One night, 6 months after Tessa moved in, she came to him with a question. "Can I call you Dad?" Daniel looked up from the table he was building. "Why?" "Because that's what you are." She shrugged. "I know there's all this complicated stuff, but you're taking care of me. You show up. That's what dads do." Daniel set down his tools. "If that's what you want, is it okay with you?" He thought about Paige. About 8 years of lies. About walking away and building a life based on honesty and distance. Then he thought about this 12-year-old girl who'd lost everything and was trying to find a place to stand. "Yeah," he said. "It's okay with me." Tessa smiled. Actually smiled. "Okay, Dad." The word sounded foreign. Wrong. Like something borrowed from a language he didn't speak. But Daniel nodded. "Okay." Time passed. Tessa grew up. 13, 14, 15. She became a person. Complex. Stubborn. Kind. She excelled at soccer. Struggled with math. Had friends over on weekends. Daniel stayed steady. Reliable. He didn't try to replace Paige. Didn't try to erase the past. He just showed up. Every day. In all the small ways that mattered. He never remarried. Never dated seriously. His life revolved around work and Tessa and the quiet rhythm of a small town. And he was okay with that. One evening, when Tessa was 15, she asked him a question. Do you regret it? They were sitting on the porch. Late summer. Crickets singing in the dark. Regret what? Daniel asked, taking me in. After everything. Daniel looked at her. She was almost grown now. Tall. Confident. Nothing like the scared 12-year-old who'd arrived with 2 suitcases. No, he said. I don't regret it. But you regretted staying with Mom. That was different. Ow. Daniel was quiet for a moment. Your mother lied to me. Built a life on deception. I stayed because I was afraid of being alone. That was my mistake. Not leaving. Staying too long. And me? You didn't lie. You didn't manipulate. You were just a kid caught in adult problems. Taking you in wasn't about fixing the past. It was about doing what was right in the present. Tessa nodded slowly. I'm glad you did. Me too. They sat in silence. The crickets kept singing. The stars came out. I think about Mom sometimes, Tessa said. I miss her, but I'm also angry at her. For lying. For keeping you away. That's normal. How do you stop being angry? Daniel thought about that hardness that had filled him years ago. The clarity that came from accepting reality. The slow, difficult work of letting go. You don't stop completely, he said. But eventually, the anger gets smaller. It stops controlling you. And then one day, you realize you're okay. Are you okay? Tessa asked. Daniel looked out at the land he'd built a life on. The quiet he'd fought for. The small, honest world he'd created. Yeah, he said. I think I am. Tessa smiled. Good. Years later, after Tessa graduated high school, after she left for college, after Daniel became an old man who still fixed things for small towns, he thought about that moment on the porch. He thought about the man he'd been, desperate for family, willing to overlook truth for the illusion of belonging. He thought about the man he'd become, hardened by betrayal, rebuilt through solitude, made whole by choosing right over easy. And he thought about Tessa, the child who wasn't his biologically, but became his anyway. Not because of obligation, not because of lies, but because love, real love, is a choice you make every day. Daniel never regretted leaving Paige. He regretted staying as long as he did. But he never regretted taking Tessa in. Never regretted rebuilding something real from the ashes of something false. Some families don't end in shouting. They end in silence and the strength it takes to walk away. And sometimes, if you're lucky, they begin again in quiet moments on a porch, under stars, with a child who just needs someone to stay. That was enough.